of reevaluate and get some feedback from retail that we're not involved in for Manti, which is relatively. But this is really one of the reasons why we've got so many consultants still doing the investor relations and stuff. We've got Susie. She's one of our new social media girls. She'll be able to be joining. I'll pull her into the Telegram group sometime this week so you guys can have a meet. And she'll be posting a lot more content out on Twitter and stuff. But yeah, penultimate version of the white paper is ready. It was ready, before last week actually, but there was just a couple of things that we need to kind of refine. I just got it back last night, so early this morning, your guys' time. We've gone through a lot of graphs and stuff. Tan's had a really good comb through. Tan's actually been quite involved with the white paper, which I'm really happy about. So he's been getting his hands dirty with the white paper with Frank and Mathew and stuff. So that was really good. So we should be releasing that this week. It's in the final stages. I mean, we've had it, what do you call it, like aesthetically designed. We've had some graphs. The graphic designers come through and formatted it quite well. So any day now, pretty much. I think the final review is one last come through from legal. Now that we've got the graphs in, just to make sure nothing's changed since they've kind of signed off from the language. Yeah, and then we're good to go. In terms of product-wise, we've been pushing a lot more stuff with PVCon Bank. They are so eager for us to deploy over there. We found a decent technology service provider. We've been building out the team specifically for the Manti stuff. So we have like our dedicated core team in Vietnam. And then we've got a group of advisors in the US. So we're really looking forward to getting this kind of built off the ground. We struck up a new relationship with one of the trust companies in the US. So this means that we've got a more secure but more accessible tech stack. Since we're working with PVCon Bank, there's obviously going to be a lot more stuff with fiat funds. So crypto is relatively easy for us to build out. We got the approval from the SEC, obviously, to kind of carry on the business model that we've proposed in terms of USDV. So with the trust company now, we can offer a lot more fiat services, which is what PVCon Bank were kind of pushing for. In terms of the crypto, it's very easy for us to build out these financial rails with ultra fast payments, and then combining the two, essentially you've got like an all-in-one account. So this is how we kind of combat a lot of this, like Cash Out, Western Union, TransferWise, etc. Because what people are going to be able to do now is they should be able to pay a third party. Say, for example, a US citizen can pay a Vietnamese bank account that they don't already know with fiat or cryptocurrency, and then when it receives on the settlement side, whether they pay in fiat or cryptocurrency, it can be settled in VND, which is the first for the region. So we're talking about a few minutes of international into a capital constrained region. I'm not too sure of any other company that's doing anything like this. There's definitely some competitors that are looking at crypto payment rails that are settled in domestic currency. We'll definitely be first to Southeast Asia for sure, and then hopefully kind of rapidly scaling over the next few months. So everything's looking good on that side. But I guess there's just a couple more questions from you guys if you've got any. I think most of you are just mostly eager about the white paper at this stage. But any day now, I mean, it's literally just got it back to your morning, US morning time last night. And it's looking good. It's looking ready to go. Legal shouldn't take long. They've already read it. They just want to make sure we haven't changed anything or nothing's been kind of, edited or deleted mostly. Everything's exactly how it was. So yeah, I apologize that we had to take the weekend to get a few changes in last minute, just kind of last minute eyes. We just didn't want to start making the graphical edits and formatting, and then we have to change something. Some retail people say, I don't understand this. Can you explain a bit more about that, etc., etc. So yeah, literally any day now. Yeah, and then just give you a quick product update in terms of where we are with PVCon Bank, the trust company in the US, and then the development team in Vietnam, which is pretty cool. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions, more than happy to jump right in. Sorry about the lack of. Sorry, Warren. When you say released, do you mean public or for revision? No, released. Like we'll post it on the website, we'll share it on Twitter, etc. Any questions, anyone?
Would you be able to give any feedback on how the beta is coming along with from the product standpoint?
Yeah, so once I mean, what we're hoping to do essentially is launch with a whole brand new UI and revised tech stack. And the beta is just there to prove the use case, prove the demand. We've kind of proven the capabilities that we can do. We can have a compliant solution that holds cryptocurrency and fiat. Because obviously, when we did some competitor analysis of Cash App, Venmo, TransferWise, these kind of other digital nomad accounts, neobanks, etc. One of the biggest challenges was most legal consultants and legal counsels were saying it's impossible. You cannot have fiat and cryptocurrency. I mean, you look at like crypto.com with their MCO crypto card. They have like virtual representations of fiat currencies. Binance just released their debit card. I think Vietnam people can now get a Binance debit card. Coinbase, I know we're looking at it. There's a few other kind of options, but most of them are just prepaid debit cards. It's not as easy to basically have the two kind of payment rails situated. Because we've got two different trust companies, we've got essentially in the domestic region, we've got the PVCon Bank operating a lot of the regulated fiat rails. We're already compliant in, what we're aware of, at least like 75 countries. So scaling up for us won't really be a problem. It all depends on the domestic laws. Obviously, in the country that we scale out, once we have the Vietnam rail set up, all we have to do is essentially copy and paste it with a regulated partner in tow. We've spoke to a couple of banks in Indonesia while we've been over here. They're super eager. What we've told them is basically just to hold on until we release to Vietnam, get everything kind of because we have the resources support from PVCon Bank. It's much easier for us to develop the solution in Vietnam first, make sure everything's worked out, and then copy and paste it. So early next year, you'll probably see a whole new platform. It might not work the same way. It's obviously going to be improved, but we're going to have a lot more. How do I phrase it? We're going to have a lot more features kind of built in. It's going to be much easier to use. So the main purpose of the beta right now is just to prove the use case and prove the demand. We've done that already. Thankfully, some of the group are absolutely fantastic. Once we can deploy the fiat rails in Vietnam, there's a whole bunch of different financial instruments that we can get into in partnership with PVCon Bank. Credit lines, overdrafts, month-to-month loans, SME loans for long-term value. Later on, it wouldn't be remiss for us to start being able to provide mortgages, maybe for expats that reside in the region, not just necessarily domestic citizens. Anything really that's extremely difficult for people on the ground to get. Like for a Vietnamese person, it's rather difficult to get a credit card. It's just not necessarily a thing over there. But obviously, as we know, a credit card is an extremely useful tool for building that generational wealth. Not only that, but it obviously secures a lot of transactions as people operate, and as online shopping and this kind of COD model, which is like cash and delivery model, kind of gets stamped out in Vietnam. People are going to start looking for secure payment solutions. It's really interesting that no one seems to trust the government over there, but everyone seems to trust a private entity, especially when it comes to cash management. So it's really important for us to get this right, because rapid scaling is obviously part of the key business model. We want to deploy fast, we want to deploy hard, we want to attract a lot of users in each region. And with each new region comes a bigger network play. And then what we can essentially do is lease these rails out to the competitors. As I've said since the beginning, we're not designed to compete. We're designed to complement. So we can go to TransferWise and say, hey, look, we can do your remittance at a much lower rate than you're currently using right now. If you use our rails for your users, we can give them heavy discounts. This kind of shop talk really. So the beta, the beta is just there to just kind of prove that we can do it. We can deploy a working system. So early next year, you'll probably see a much cleaner solution, really. But we'll give notice as we have done in the past to anyone that signed up, is to just basically remove any funds that you may have deposited, just so we can wipe them and then confirm each user account to the reserves that we have for each user. But I'll give a day or two notice, and we'll try to send out emails out to those users just to double check. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question. We've got a couple of questions in the group. USDV product launch timeline. Honestly, I don't really want to give estimates right now. Sometimes things get in the way that are unforeseen, like the white paper, for example. We took the weekend to get some retail eyes on it. But it's definitely not going to be over the next few months, obviously. But I think we've made some amazing progress securing the PVCon Bank relationship, for example. I'm not aware of any other crypto project that's 100% got a relationship with the bank. Ripple, was a bit of a PR project, so they don't really have anything. But yeah, I'm really proud of what we've managed to achieve. Apologies, but a little bit lost on the revision versus release time frame. Is being revised now by some retailers, and it will be made public after that? No, any day now. So we took last weekend. So it's been ready for a while. I think before last week, but it just circulates hands each time. That each party kind of needs a few hours or like a day to kind of review it. It's a massive document. It's not. I mean, the first one that we got months ago was like 2 or 3 pages, and we just were not happy. It didn't explain anything about the history of the concept, like why are we doing this? None of the underlying technicals. There was just so much missing. It would have been an insult to release it. So it's a massive document that we've got now. It's almost like a dissertation to put it in perspective. But if we pulled any of you guys on it, then that means that you guys would have had to liquidate your positions, and then you wouldn't have been able to trade for 6 months after, which I don't think anyone would have been happy to do, right? So we just had to, that was my fault for speaking too soon. So what we had to do was essentially just look outside the group. And we've managed to get some people that trade eyes, some retail users eyes, people from different demographics, from different backgrounds, people that we want to apply different use cases for to make sure that they understand. And then we obviously took the weekend to do some edits, but now there's been graphically designed, there's been some diagrams and graphs added, it's been formatted. So yeah, it's literally ready to go any day now. Banks are on board. Have you talked to other companies or even charities about adopting USDV? No, of course. So we're not speaking to retailers. We're speaking to platforms, service providers, the e-wallets, Mocha, Zallo, for example. There's not really much that we can do in the US. The market is rather saturated. What we're anticipating is the organic adoption will come in the US once we have the Southeast Asian kind of users driving that. So, people that want to send money back to the US, or people that want to do foreign trade between 2 countries, they're the people that are going to see it. So people, say, for example, managers that are paying staff in Vietnam, what we've seen is a lot of them are using TransferWise, mostly because it's lower cost. Once we've explained to them, like, ours is low cost, it's much faster. You can send it directly to their bank account. You don't have to send it to Vietnamese bank account and then send it individually once you're over there. So managers have much more control in deploying budget to staff for any region. We've had 2 or 3 I think we've had 3 merchants try it out so far. They're happy with it. Not necessarily large cap. I think that it's mostly less than 25,000, more than 15. So they're happy with it. But obviously, you know, we've said to them that they've got some. We've got. Sorry, there's someone's phone going off. We've said to them. Sorry, guys, just one sec. Sorry. Yeah, so we've had some managers use it and stuff, and they're quite happy with it. So what we want to do next is essentially looking for these large cap players that do remittance for, take over these rails. So we don't really want to push too much adoption in the US, just it's a saturated market. Are there any updates on people signing NDAs, public release? No, so as I explained before, we can't have any traders from Vimanti review it. So I spoke too soon. If they were to sign the NDA, it means you guys would have to liquidate your position, and then you couldn't have traded Vimanti stock for the next 6 months, which obviously would have upset a lot. Charities in Vietnam. No, I mean, it's still possible, you know, between a user to send it, you know, internationally for them to get or make charity payments. I mean, it does make a lot of sense. You can see the transaction, but a lot of what we're anticipating is going to be offline transactions, like off chain. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense for us to target a charity. If people want to send, you know, charity payments abroad, then we can speak to them directly and then offer them like a much lower cost solution. But it's not the ideal charity payment. You know what I mean? Any other questions, guys? I'm just switching between the two. But yeah, I apologize for the lack of talk in Telegram. I think I did see someone comment and just saying that means that there's work to be done, which is very, very true. It depends how you define partnership. We've got a few. We've been speaking to a few blockchains. So obviously, if you guys been paying attention to the headlines, you can see that regulation is coming very fast. We've had a lot of people extremely surprised that we've got where we are. We've had a few people, I don't want to call it corporate espionage, but there's definitely been a few people reaching out, pretending to be looking for a partnership that are asking how we've set things up, which is exactly one of the reasons why we didn't want to just start, you know, shouting everything from the rooftops so early on. People are very surprised as how we've managed to set up the kind of legal structure. You know, they're asking why we've got a trust account offshore and that kind of stuff. But it works. You know, we've essentially managed to do what Coinbase can't even do. And we honestly think that that's partly because they're too big. But once we deploy and focus on offshore transactions, there's not real much that we can do. There's not really much that the US can do, really. Because obviously we're not focused on domestic payments. You know, we're a fantastic use case for domestic payments. But if anything, we're ensuring that, you know, like the US CBDC, for example, is definitely being used abroad. You know, we're driving natural organic adoption of US payments still, you know, throughout the world. So I wouldn't really say that we've got new partnerships, but people are definitely starting to notice USDV. They're asking us, you know, about our legal structure, the setup. Dan's been filing some of the paperwork, as you guys have seen. I'm not too sure what Dan's been keeping you guys updated on. I'm not allowed in that group, unfortunately, but Dan's here because there's a lot of things that we can't do. So I cannot record the phone call and put it out there, right? But one of you guys can. That's completely different. So Dan's here to explain a lot of things that we cannot say ourselves. So that's just kind of the weird situation that we're in at the moment. We've got a big, huge blockchain partner that'll probably be announced over the next few months. Once we get the finalized fiat rails off in Vietnam, then we can. You guys will probably see more. You guys will probably hear about it more from the crypto side rather than the trading side. What's to be achieved prior to USDV launch? There's a few things really. Probably the naming of the different projects, because sometimes it does get a little bit confusing. But on a serious note, we have to get the banking APIs and webhooks finalized in Vietnam. And then we want to build out our own platform. We'll probably just ride off the beta for the first month or two, just to kind of get a base of people being used kind of from the database and the existing platform that we've already got, because we don't really want to waste it. So there's a lot more on the fiat banking side, Vietnam, to build out. And then we want to come back and revisit the platform in terms of, we want to bring like, a experienced like UI UX designer to come in and do some revisions of the user flow and that kind of stuff. Would you be able to clarify how USD launches it will generate revenue for the company for anyone who still seems a little skeptical about the project? I don't think anyone is skeptical about the project. I mean, the beta platform's there. You can go use it. You can make ACH and wire payments. You can deposit crypto or exchange fiat to crypto. So like the product's working. It just doesn't look the best. But I mean, the minute we launch, it's monetizable. Right now, the fee structure is very sporadic because we've kind of threw some financial instruments in there. Just to kind of make the product workable, right? But obviously we have new service providers now, we have different financial rails, it's much easier for us to move forward. So once we deploy, excuse me, once we deploy the Vietnam side, it's 100% monetized. I mean, there's not really much we need to do besides the Vietnam side, because once we've got the Vietnam side, we've essentially got the remittance channel, then we can start to build out the reserve on the Vietnam domestic payment side. So the remittance channels monetize from day one, really. Sure, the platform's monetized now, but it's just really to prove that we can do more, out to prove the use case of USDV, etc. There's a couple of other things that we've got with deploying the reserve as well, for the yield generation and the kind of interest payments and stuff. That comes, pretty later on. I think there's a lot of regulation that needs to die down, and a few things need to get confirmed first before, like, kind of industry-wide, like this reserve deployment can kind of go ahead. But how will we generate revenue? Sorry. So basically, we monetize the platform. So USDV, we have a reserve that we can deploy to earn interest, and we share that with the smart contract holders, like people that use USDV and stake USDV, they get a share of the interest reserve payments and stuff. And then we essentially monetize the payment rails. So we can do 2 million transactions, and the cost is less than $1 for us. So if someone sends $100 or they send $1 million, they're two separate transactions. So we can process 2 million of those for less than $1, right? So the upside is massive. Then we've got the slippage and the forex that we can monetize on both sides. I mean, immediately from Vietnam, just one country, it's what did we say last time? It's like an $18 billion annual market, right? Even if we only secure 1% of that market, we're talking 180 million. That's crazy, right? That's phenomenal. And then even we've got partners on the ground in Vietnam that have over 1% of the Vietnamese population kind of in their books already. And then PVCom Bank obviously have, a very large network of users in Vietnam. So getting 1% of the market is kind of guaranteed. So what we're aiming for is the Vietnamese, audience, the demographic, to basically flood flood the network with new users from the US side, people that are receiving payments, people that want to send back, etc. So that's kind of the benefit we've got. So we've got banks on both sides of the US and Vietnam. We've got the crypto rails on both sides. So kind of driving adoption is just going to come very naturally. Is the crypto white paper has been revised? No, the white paper has not. The S1, I think it was, or something, one of the other forms. I think Dan's probably best to explain it. One of the other forms has been reviewed, and they've basically just said carry on. I mean, they haven't like give it the stamp of approval and been like, yes, you know, the SEC is 100% behind this project, as they cannot do, right? But they've basically just said, you know, I think it was like reduced to a statement of, looks good, carry on at your own risk, which is about as good as you can get from the SEC. So we've been told that we can continue. You know, they just said we have more questions in the future. We'll reach out. But you know that I don't think any other stablecoin, let alone cryptocurrency, has that kind of you know, level of awareness from the SEC. So it's going to be exciting for sure. So I think the next few months are getting the ducks in a row. You know, building out the kind of infrastructure. And then next year, when we start to track users and stuff, it's going to be quite hectic. But we've got some good infrastructure partners. The technology service provider that we're using, based out of Vietnam, they've they have introduced us to a good partner actually. That's actually sped up a lot of the crypto features like the staking and the interest yield and distribution, kind of on-off ramps. So actually, yeah, they have been a good partner. So yeah, I guess you could say there has been a new partner that's benefit the ecosystem. Any other questions, guys? It's been a long night for me. Apologize if I slur my words. I think most of these nights are pretty long. No worries, mate. I apologize if some of you sent me a message as well. I replied to most of you that were asking about the white paper, but I think there is some of you that I haven't responded to that sent a DM. I am aware if you ever want to ask a question, you know, a private question or something, and I don't reply in the first day, I've told you guys before, feel free to just harass me, send me a message until I reply. It's not a problem. I honestly don't mind it. But yeah, don't ever feel like you're harassing me or anything. I'll get round to it when I can. That's all. Obviously, it's just when we come to the end of the month, we've obviously got KPIs and stuff that we need to manage internally, so it's always super busy. And obviously, we've got the white paper and the PVCom bank, and then the trust partner in the US. It's just been a bit hectic, trying to get everything kind of in the line, ready for us to kind of scale up. But I'm happy. Yeah, I'm really happy with how things are going. I mean, you know, 180 million, like pretty much minimum, is a pretty good target to be aiming for. And considering we have a better solution than what's out there on the market now, it wouldn't be amiss for us to be targeting a lot of these capital constrained regions, right? So once we kind of have a good solid base in Southeast Asia, it's time we start looking at South America, parts of Africa, you know, parts of Bangladesh, for example, or India. I mean, India is kind of softening up to crypto now. So obviously having a very compliant stablecoin is their first port of call to be concerned about. I mean, we did have a good discussion with someone from Sonali Bank a few months ago. And they said, like, you know, when regulation eases up in India, like, we can definitely have a further conversation. So that's definitely something that we can be excited about. But yeah, we'll probably bring in a brand manager to look after a lot of these kind of marketing materials and stuff like that for each project. I'll try and get Susie into the group this week. She's been managing the Twitter social media handles. She's not very crypto savvy, which is good for us because we get to see things from a retail user's point of view. But she is very familiar with the finance world. She used to work for some investment banks in London, that kind of stuff. And she's just pretty much had an easy life. So she's pretty excited to jump right in. She really supports the vision. It's always a win. All right, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time. I hope I managed to answer some of the things that have been asked in the group. Yeah, and apologies, I didn't really reply to a lot of you. I did try my best to speak to some of you. I apologize if some of them was just a copy and pasted message. But yeah, if there's no more questions, more than happy to answer anything I can on the call if you guys want. I think you guys are more excited for Dan's interpretations, right? Awesome. And gentlemen, I'll speak to you soon. As usual, anything you want, just tag me or harass me by DM. Perfectly fine. Enjoy the evening, guys.